Listen to me because this isn't a pep talk. This is a wake-up call. There is a version of you right now that's holding you hostage. Yes, hostage. That version is lazy, afraid, full of excuses, addicted to comfort, scrolling instead of showing up, dreaming instead of building. You need to kill that version. Not later, not next Monday. Now, you keep waiting for motivation like it's some miracle drug. You think one day you'll just wake up and suddenly everything will change. Newsflash, that version of you is a liar. And worse, you've been listening to them for years. That voice in your head that says, I'm tired, I'll do it tomorrow, it's too hard, what if I fail? That's not you. That's the weak copy of you. A knockoff. A fraud. And that version? It needs to effing die. You don't need another self-help book. You don't need a new planner. You don't need better circumstances. You need war. A war against the soft version of you that's been running your life on autopilot. You've been dragging dead weight. And that dead weight is you. Not the real you, the version of you that's been hijacked by fear, laziness, and cheap dopamine. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The one that hits snooze, the one that says, I'll do it tomorrow. The one that watches other people win while telling themselves, I'm just not ready yet. That version is not your friend. It's your enemy. It smiles in the mirror, pretending to protect you while stabbing your potential in the back. Every time you choose comfort over progress, that version survives another day. Every time you say just one more scroll, just one more hour, just one more excuse, that version grows stronger. It whispers in your ear, telling you you're doing fine, that you've got time, that you're not like them. It's lying to you. And you keep listening like it's gospel. You're not tired. You're just trained by weakness. Conditioned by a world that rewards mediocrity and punishes discomfort. You've been numbed. Numbed by likes, by validation, by distraction, by comfort food, by fake victories that feel good for 5 seconds and leave you emptier than before. You think this is life. This isn't life. This is survival on life support. And the worst part? You've made peace with it. You've made peace with showing up at 30%. You've made peace with quitting halfway. You've made peace with watching others pass you while you clap from the sidelines, secretly wondering if that could have been you. Spoiler alert, it was supposed to be you. But that version of you, the one with the hunger, the rage, the fire, you buried them under excuses. You can't negotiate with weakness. You can't talk it out. You can't coexist with it. You kill it. Cold, brutal. Without hesitation, you want to be powerful. You want to be unstoppable. Then stop protecting the version of you that was built in comfort. Because the version of you that was shaped by fear can never lead you into greatness. That version was born from the trauma, from the rejections, from the failures you never healed from. That version is a defense mechanism. It's not your future. It's your prison. And the longer you let it live, the longer your true self dies. You know what greatness feels like? Not ease, not applause, not luxury. It feels like pain. It feels like pressure. It feels like doing the thing you hate at the time you least want to do it, because that's what's required to be elite. But the weak version of you will never let you feel that. It'll protect you from discomfort like it's doing you a favor. But it's robbing you. Every day you let that version live, it steals your time. It steals your potential. It steals your greatness and sells it for cheap hits of pleasure. You're not addicted to failure. You're addicted to avoiding pain. And the weak version of you is the dealer. You need to become the assassin of your own limitations. Every time the voice in your head says, take it easy, you hit harder. Every time it says, you can't, you get louder. Every time it says, you've done enough, you go one more. Because the weak version of you has a pattern. And patterns can be broken, but only with violence of intent. You can't just casually outgrow this version. You have to bury it with discipline, with action, with obsession. And don't get it twisted, this is not about hate. This is about evolution. The snake sheds its skin not because it hates the old one, but because it outgrew it. And if you're still walking around in the skin of your former self, you've already stopped growing. You weren't built for mediocrity. That voice inside you that screams for more. That fire, that pain, that rage, that's not frustration, it's truth trying to break through. That's your real self banging on the cage you put it in. And every day you delay killing the weak version of you, that cage gets smaller. Until one day it's too late. You think you're waiting for the right time. There is no right time to commit murder. There is only now. And you better believe this is murder. Murder of the self that lied. The self that hesitated. The self that looked fear in the face and said, please don't hurt me, instead of get the hell out of my way. You're not here to survive. You're here to conquer. And you can't conquer anything until you conquer you. Not the real you, the broken clone that's been driving the wheel for too long. You have to walk into the fire. You have to tear down the safety net. You have to kill the version of you that keeps flinching at life. Because this world, it doesn't respect the safe. It rewards the relentless. And you don't get to be both. So the question is simple. Will you keep protecting the version of you that's been killing your dreams in secret? Or will you finally bury that fraud and rebuild from the ashes? Choose. Because today is the funeral. And either you kill the weak version of you or that version buries everything you were born to become. Your future self doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't wait for motivation. It doesn't listen to excuses. It only responds to discipline and nothing else. You keep thinking you'll rise when you feel ready, but ready is a lie sold to the lazy. You will never feel ready to face your demons. You will never feel ready to push through the pain. You will never feel ready to do what's necessary. And that's why discipline is your only weapon. Discipline is what separates the talkers from the doers. It's the line between the dreamers and the destroyers. Discipline doesn't ask if it's raining. It doesn't ask if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're on, broke, or overwhelmed. It shows up anyway. It bleeds anyway. It suffers with a smile because it knows this is the cost of greatness. The weak version of you loves negotiation. It loves loopholes. It loves saying just this once, but your next level demands execution without emotion. Because if your emotions lead, your results will die. You don't need better conditions. You need a better contract with yourself. A contract that says, I do the work regardless, not when it's easy, not when I'm in the mood, not when the stars align every single damn day. Discipline is not some Instagram quote. It's not sexy. It's not motivational. It's war, silent war. The kind where nobody claps for you. Nobody sees you grind. Nobody cheers you on, but you still go, you still move, you still push because you're not doing it for attention. You're doing it for the person you promised yourself you'd become. Your next level is not about feeling inspired. It's about becoming unstoppable. It's about building habits so ruthless they scare your old self. It's about saying no to comfort. So often that comfort starts fearing you. Your future doesn't belong to the emotional. It belongs to the executioners, the ones who show up sore, the ones who show up broken, the ones who show up scared, but still move like killers. Discipline doesn't wait for hype. It creates its own energy. It creates momentum through action because when you take action, even when you don't want to, you prove something to your brain. You prove that you are in control. You prove that you own your life, and when you stack that proof every day, brick by brick, you build a version of you that nothing can break. You think the winners always feel like it. They don't. They feel the same pain, the same fear, the same doubt, but they choose discipline anyway. They don't want it more. They do it anyway more. Your next level requires sacrifice, sleep, comfort, distractions, approval. You don't get to bring your old habits into your new life if you want the results that only the top 1% get. You need the discipline that only the top 1% live. By discipline means doing what has to be done, even when it burns, even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, because you know what's worse than pain. Regret is pain with no regret is a punishment you serve for eternity, but Discipline is pain with a purpose. It's struggle with a payoff. The version of you that wins doesn't flinch at hard work. They ate it. They feast on it. They use it and feast sharpen themselves. They understand that pressure doesn't break diamonds where you serve. And every time you lean into that pressure, you get sharper. Every time you wake up early, even when you're exhausted, you get stronger. Every time you do one more rep, one more less, you get closer. Your next level doesn't accept apologies. It only accepts proof. In the form of sweat, in the form of showing up, in the form of doing the work without being told. And if you're waiting for someone to push you, you've already lost. You're not going to be held accountable by anyone. You're not going to be rescued. You are your own coach, your own army, your own engine. And the fuel is discipline. That's why discipline doesn't need inspiration. It is the inspiration. It's what separates the phase from the lifestyle, the burst from the legacy, good from the unstoppable. If you want a life that no one can ignore, then you need to become the kind of person no one can break. And that only happens through discipline repeated until it becomes identity, because once it's who you are, once it's in your blood, then nobody can take it from you. Not life, not pain, not loss, not failure. Their wins isn't built in motivation. That you is built at 5 a.m. when the world is asleep and your bed is whispering your name. That you is built in silence. When there's no one to impress, that you is built when you want to quit. But you don't not because it's easy, but because you refuse to be ordinary. Discipline is the muscle that will carry you when motivation dies, and it will die. Motivation dies fast, but discipline lives forever. It's the only thing that shows up when your body says stop, when your mind says it's too much. Discipline kicks in and says, we're not done yet. You want to know how people become machines. They train through emotion. They keep moving through heartbreak, hunger, fatigue, and doubt. They rewire their identity to outwork everything soft, and they do it daily. You have the power to do the same, but you have to get serious enough to stop checking the clock, serious enough to do the work without needing a round of applause, serious enough to treat every day like a war. Your only weapon is consistency, because in the end, the only thing that builds empires, that builds legends, that builds legacies is not hype, is not chance, is not talent. It's discipline repeated so ruthlessly that quitting becomes impossible. And winning becomes inevitable. You're waiting to feel motivated. And that's the exact reason you're stuck. Motivation is a scam. It's a drug you've been sold to delay your life. And every time you chase it, you reinforce the lie that action depends on emotion. You want to know why you haven't changed? Because you've been hypnotized by the idea that you need to feel good before you do something great. That's not transformation. That's emotional addiction. And it's the reason you're standing in the same spot, watching your potential rot while your excuses thrive. You think the greats were motivated. You think they woke up with fire in their veins every day? No, they just stopped giving power to their feelings and started giving power to their standards. Indeed, that's the shift you're terrified to make, because it means no more coddling your excuses, no more blaming circumstances, no more waiting for the perfect moment. You keep thinking action follows motivation, but that's the biggest lie you've ever believed. Action doesn't follow motivation. Motivation follows action. And when you understand that, you take the wheel back, you stop waiting for a feeling, and you start building a machine. Machines don't care if it's raining. Machines don't care if it's hard. Machines move, and you were born to be a weapon, not a whisper. You were built to go, not to sit around hoping for a spark. You're not tired. You're undisciplined. You're not unmotivated. You're unfocused. And every time you say, I'm waiting for motivation, what you're really saying is, I don't feel like becoming who I said I'd be. And if that doesn't punch you in the gut, you're not listening hard enough. Motivation is a liar. It shows up when things are easy. It shows up when the music's right, when the sun's out, when your energy is high. But when the storm hits, when everything goes black, when your world is chaos, motivation disappears. And if that's all you were relying on, you fall with it. That's why the real ones, the ones who rise while the rest sleep, they don't operate on hype. They operate on commitment. They do it without a crowd. They do it without a feeling, because they've replaced emotion with execution. You keep trying to build a new life with an old strategy, and that strategy is waiting to feel ready. You'll never feel ready. You'll never feel like waking up earlier, eating cleaner, working harder, sacrificing more. But the difference between you and the version of you that wins, that version does it anyway. That version moves through the mud while you sit in it. That version creates energy by forcing motion, because action isn't optional, it's required. You need to stop treating your emotions like they're facts. They're not. They're filters. And if you see your entire life through the filter of comfort, you will never step into power. You can't lead a legacy while obeying your moods. You want to feel alive? Then move before you're ready. Move while you're scared. Move when it hurts, because your body was built for war, not waiting in the second you start moving. Your brain catches up. The fire comes after the spark, and the spark is the first step. But you won't feel that if you keep waiting to be rescued by motivation. Motivation isn't coming. No one is coming. No perfect time. No burst of energy. No magical shift. You are the only thing standing between where you are and where you said you'd be. And every day you delay action, you teach your brain that avoidance is safety. You strengthen the chains around your potential. You become a slave to emotion, not a master of execution. Do you want to know what real transformation looks like? It's ugly, it's gritty, it's silent, it's getting up at 5 a.m. with no applause. It's doing the reps no one sees. It's sacrificing pleasure for progress every single day. And none of it feels good in the moment, but it builds the person you swore you'd become. Every empire was built brick by brick, not spark by spark. Every warrior was forged in repetition, not inspiration. And you are no different. You don't need hype. You need habits. You don't need permission. You need movement. And you don't need motivation. You need to decide that you're done letting emotions lead, decide that you're done playing small because you're not in the mood, decide that